I just don't understand, Nicole. I really don't understand how you could do something so drastic and then turn around and be like, oh yeah, I didn't really know, you know? I didn't know how deep it ran. It's just so funny. It's funny and not funny all at the same time. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Jada here, back with another video. So as you can tell by the title, we are going to be doing a quick recap of the 90 Day Fiance The Other Way spinoff. This is going to be season 4. So I already did a recap of the first few episodes of the season here. If you guys like to check that out, I'll link it in the corner for you guys. But let's just say ever since I did that video, it has been a pretty interesting couple of episodes thus far. As always, I have my list here of all the couples. It's 6 of them, but I definitely try my best to do that because I'm like, I don't want to forget nobody. And I know if I try to not do it without my list, child, okay, because I gotta keep track of a lot of different shows, so it's like I'm gonna need to write something down, you know. First we have Jen and Rishi. So Jen, I believe in the last video that I did, I told you guys about how they met and also the fact that Rishi is pretty much hiding that he is engaged to Jen, and Jen already came all the way to India to be with Rishi. And it's like, okay, so you haven't even told your parents that we're together, let alone engaged? How are we gonna make this work? How are we even going to get to the wedding? Like, are we just gonna be engaged forever? Unfortunately, Jen, in these last couple of episodes, she finds out that her visa to stay in India, as a visitor anyway, it expires. So she has to, of course, go back to the US. Then she has to wait for another, I don't know, who knows, couple of months maybe, before she is able to come back into the country. Before she leaves, Rishi, he tries to make her trip, the ending anyway, at least decent. And what I find interesting is that Rishi, he's a personal trainer, right? And you know, when it came to Jen, her friends were very skeptical. Her friends and family, let's put that in there. Friends and family, they were both skeptical about Rishi. The fact that, number one, you know, met this dude in a foreign country and he hasn't even told his family or friends, or at least family anyway, that you guys are engaged. And I'm trying to figure out, where is this supposed to go? You know, like even Jen is trying to figure that out, like what's supposed to happen here. So she's trying to be trusting of his timing and his schedule. However, it doesn't seem like Rishi's been making any progress with trying to break the news to his family. He tries to make the last couple of days of her trip worthwhile before she leaves. She enjoys that. He reproposes before she leaves, so she can't really enjoy fully the moment because she has to literally get in a taxi minutes after that happens. So she gets in a taxi, she goes home, and I have to say, Rishi has been doing some interesting things while she's been gone. And the friends, like I said, they're definitely questioning the relationship because, you know, like I said, again, he's a personal trainer. They use that to their advantage, at least one of the friends anyway. They're trying to trap him. They're just like, hey, trying to spark up a conversation, you know, the fitness and all that stuff. And he sends the friend a picture of himself shirtless. And it's like, what is going on here? What is going on, Rishi? Like, I don't know what's happening here. And this was right around the time that Jen decided to tell her friends that she's going back to India. This is after a couple of months, and then she decided to go back. So they tell her right before she's about to hop on the plane in the next day or two. And she's just like, well, what am I supposed to do with this information? So it's very questionable because it's like, even if you're a fitness instructor, I don't see how you sending a shirtless pic of yourself to a potential client. How is that professional? So yeah, but anyways, so he tries to explain himself in the latest episode. This is after Jen goes back to India, and she tries her hardest to not really come all the way out with it at first. She's just like, I'm gonna give you a chance to pretty much tell me what you did, that you was trying to set up a meeting with my friend to get to meet up with them on a personal level. So it just seemed like, oh, are you cheating? And even Rishi's friend, I think, when they were at the gym, She was like, are you sure you never cheated on this woman? You're always around women. You're always training women. So how exactly is she supposed to trust you? Like, not only is she in another country, but you're a personal trainer. So there's a lot of doubt there. I'm just not entirely sure how that's going to work out, because not only have you not told your family about our relationship or engagement, but now you're running around possibly cheating on me. Like, that's too much. That's too much for me even. But we're going to move on to Danielle and Johan. So Danielle and Johan have been having a lot of issues, honestly. I think I left off in that other video with them looking at apartments and Danielle realizing that Johan doesn't really have anything to give to her for rent and utility bills and stuff like that. And we also find out that Danielle is in a hell of a lot of debt in the US. So she thought that just by moving away from the US that she could ignore that. And she doesn't tell any of this to Johan, okay? The fact that number one, you're in a crap load of debt in your country of origin, and number two, that you haven't even filed for his visa. You were selling him a dream about filing his visa and having him come back to the States with you. Instead, you pretty much say, oh, we're just gonna stay in the DR for a bit, okay, chill out here, see if we can make a life here, and then if not, then we can go back to the States. But you're still selling him the dream of potentially having his visa approved and whatnot when you didn't even file it. So I just don't like the lies. It's just kind of like, really, Danielle? This is your husband and you're starting your marriage off on a completely different foot than the correct one. So they're already off to a rocky start, obviously, like I said, because of the lies and the lying repeatedly, and obviously because of financial issues. Just a lot going on with them. And with this last episode, we left off with Danielle telling Johan that her ex-boyfriend, someone that she had a relationship with, okay, I think it was a boyfriend, her ex is coming to the DR to visit her. And she's just like, I'm gonna hang out with him, but you can come along, basically. And he's just like, that's disrespectful. I don't understand how that's not seen as disrespect. You are telling your husband, oh, my ex is gonna come and visit me, but I'm just gonna hang out with him because he's my friend. I'm friends with all my exes. And I'm like, okay, but you're married. I don't see how that's not seen as a problem. So the fact that at the end of that conversation, Danielle's just like, oh, I'm seeing a whole other side of Johan and I don't like this side of him. And he is just, you know, being really closed-minded, basically. And I just didn't like how she said this at the very end of her little interview on that episode. She was like, you know, if this is something that he is gonna have issues with, then we're gonna have a lot bigger issues or fish to fry in the rest of our relationship. If this is going to be a major issue, then God, I don't know how this is going to work out, basically. And I'm just like, Danielle, I don't understand how you're not seeing this as a problem. Those people who want to be friends with their exes, okay, cool, but it's very different when you're trying to continue a friendship, okay, on the same level that you had with your ex when you were single. You know, I don't understand how you could continue that type of relationship when you're now married. I don't see that working out too well in my mind, but hey, do you? They've been having a lot of issues. I think it's even more to come. But we're gonna move on to Chris and Jamie. So Chris and Jamie, they ended up tying the knot first couple of days that Chris was in Colombia. She definitely had some issues early on. I believe she said she had a car accident. She had some issues with her neck and spine and all that stuff. And I think she was supposed to have surgery at some point in the future to fix that, or at least alleviate a good amount of the pain. So that took away a good bit of their time together. But you know, they ended up getting married. Happy for them. But their families couldn't really be there. But in Jamie's case, unlike Chris, okay, Chris had told her family members and friends like, hey, you know, I like women, you know, I'm going to be with a woman in Colombia, this is my fiance type of way. But not only does Jamie's actual family not even know that she's in a relationship, but she doesn't even tell them that, oh, hey, I'm gay. You know, I'm a lesbian, I like women. Just like, wow. So not only do they not even know that you're engaged and in a relationship with this woman, but you don't even tell them that you even like women. It's just like, that's crazy. So Jamie's friends were the only ones that came there. They're, I guess, kind of like her family in a way, but just find it so strange. I'm like, how do you go without your family though? It's like, you don't even give them the chance to accept you as you are. You just don't tell them anything. It's like, I don't know about that. But anyways, so they get married, and shortly after that, because I think Chris couldn't find her special medications and stuff like that in Colombia, she ended up having to go back home anyway. At first, she was saying before the wedding she might have to go back to Alabama because they had like a case going on with something getting stolen from her, so she had to appear in court, but they were going to proceed without her. So they kind of got that sorted so she could stay in Colombia. But she, you know, obviously because the medication not being there, that's important. I need to go back to America. So we end up seeing a portion of a new episode because, you know, at the end of the episodes, they usually show you what's going to be in future episodes. We saw a snippet of Chris in America. She, I guess, had been there for a while now, but they're talking on like what looks like FaceTime or Zoom or something, and they're chatting, and they get into this heated argument because it seems as though Chris is not really communicating with Jamie, and Jamie's feeling neglected yet again. So that seems to be the going theme in their relationship because Jamie brings it up quite a few times. She's just like, listen, in the past you kind of had this neglectful, you know, way about you when it came to our relationship. I just felt very neglected. That's kind of why we ultimately had some infidelity issues on my part. In that case, Jamie's part. Clearly, it's because Chris, she's trying to get her financials together. She's trying to do this, do that, and take care of them. But it's like, you can't neglect your partner though. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, if Jamie feels the way that she does, you kind of have to validate that, or else this relationship is doomed. So yeah, it's kind of left off right there. We're gonna move on to Gabriel and Isabel. So Gabriel, at the end of my other video, I remember I spoke about how he was kind of stuck with Isabel's parents because he was like, listen, I kind of want to have everything out in the open. I want to tell them that I am trans. And Isabel, her friends, and also her children, they already know. They're accepting of Gabriel as he is, but Isabel's parents are the only ones that don't know. They go up to ride some horses and all that type of stuff, and Gabriel sits Isabel's parents down, and he finally tells them like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm trans, and this is what happened, da 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 da. And you know, they're in shock, okay? The mom and the dad, they're kind of in shock, and Isabel is just kind of sitting there in silence, just letting Gabriel, you know, do his thing. You could tell at first they were kind of confused, but as he did a lot more explaining and translating, because you know, some of the things he doesn't really know how to say in Spanish, but he does his best. The dad, he seemed to be a little bit more quizzical. He was like, listen, I need to know more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. He seemed very accepting. He kind of got over that hurdle, but then I think Gabriel, because of his past of not being accepted by people, he was kind of questioning whether they were really accepting or it was just them faking it, you know? But because Gabriel had a much more in-depth conversation with Isabel's dad at one point, I think that's when he realized like, oh, you're actually being serious. You really seem to be very accepting of me. But then again, you know, you never really know what could happen in the future. It could end up being a bigger problem that's just not being expressed. We don't know. So, you know, I can't really knock Gabriel for being suspicious, you know what I'm saying, considering his past. I think Gabriel had asked Isabel's dad if, you know, he could propose. He asked for permission, and then I think they went to like a pottery class. Gabriel and Isabel's kids, they went to a pottery class. They made a plate, and on the plate, Gabriel basically was asking like, hey, will you marry me, right? And he was asking for the kids' blessings along with the dad's in that moment. And of course they were like, yeah, you know, definitely go ahead, propose to my mom. And I thought it was really sweet. You know, he brought Isabel back to the same pottery place. He took the plate out and got on one knee and was like, hey, you know, yes or no, you know? So I thought that was really sweet. So I'm happy that they finally got over that hurdle, because that was the one thing that seemed to be kind of an issue. It does seem like another potential problem is Gabriel's friend. I can't remember his name at the moment, but Gabriel actually just told him as well that he was trans. I'm not entirely sure if this friend was someone that Gabriel had met in the US and then they moved to Colombia or what, but he seemed to have an American accent. He doesn't seem Colombian. So I don't know. Y'all let me know. But you could tell that when Gabriel and Isabel and that guy met up, like all three of them together for like dinner or whatnot, that was not going so well. Isabel does not like him. She just thinks that he is a terrible influence on Gabriel. So I'm just kind of like, this could be a potential problem. We'll keep an eye on it. But for now, we're just gonna move on to Debbie and Osama. So Debbie and Osama, I already don't see lasting long, but I feel like talking about it anyway since they're a part of the show. They're part of the cast, so let's talk about them like every other couple. Debbie met Osama online. I think it was because of some type of poetry thing. Debbie decides to move all the way to Morocco where Osama lives, and Osama is currently living with his parents. It doesn't really seem like he necessarily had a plan for Debbie. I'm just gonna be honest. It just seemed like oh, Debbie, come here, visit. But Debbie saw it as, oh, we're in love, we're engaged, I'm going to move here. It just seemed like a very just different interpretation of the position they were in their relationship. It definitely seems like they're in two different headspaces. So that disconnect ends up getting talked about at dinner, and Debbie finally sees Osama was really thinking. Debbie's just like, oh, you lied to me. Like, you lied to me. And it's just kind of like, I mean, Debbie, you're kind of delusional if you think that the first time you guys meet each other in person that you should just move there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why not, you know, get to know him first? This is the first time you're getting to meet him. For her to be in her 60s and be that delusional, I wonder how much more delusional she was in her younger years. You know what I'm saying? It's very questionable. I find it interesting that Debbie even is conscious about how people perceive their relationship. They have yet to really speak about, obviously, Osama's parents and how the parents are gonna react, but I just don't see that going well. The fact that you, Osama, are so young and Debbie is in her 60s, how the heck is that going to work? I'm pretty sure his parents are gonna want grandkids, okay? Like, there are no grandkids to be had. She's in her 60s. It's just a lot of things working against them in this moment. I just don't see this working out too well. I think the last snippet I saw of them was when Osama was doing some poetry and he was talking about Debbie in it. And Debbie was like, oh my God, I'm in love. He's the man that I was waiting on. And it's like, Debbie, come on, man. You can't be this slow. Mahmoud and Nicole, okay, or Nicole and Mahmoud, because Nicole is technically the foreigner here. This has been such a tumultuous relationship from the start. I don't remember where I left off with them in the last video that I did, but it's just been so all over the place. From the moment that Nicole touches down in Egypt, they had been going at it, okay? And just not in the healthiest of ways. You could clearly tell that they come from obviously two very, very different cultures and backgrounds, and because of the religion, I'm pretty sure that definitely has a stronghold. We've seen that play out on Mahmoud, and it just, yeah, it does not go well. It goes downhill from the moment she touches down in Egypt. I can't entirely remember what last happened. I'm just gonna say that, you know, they were arguing about obviously how Nicole dresses, and then Nicole had met up with Mahmoud's friends to get to know them, but Mahmoud was trying to tell her like, hey, we don't really do that, you know, so it's gonna be kind of awkward, and now she wants to go home. They were just kind of going at it. They would have arguments here and there about the clothing situation, and then Nicole not doing this, not doing that. And it really seemed like there was a lot of demand on Nicole, but there wasn't really much, you know, being said in terms of Mahmoud and what was supposed to be kind of needed from him. So yeah, it was just a lot of like Nicole, 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 in my opinion. What I find interesting about Nicole is that she decided to convert to Islam, become a Muslim, but she didn't really fully understand the rules and requirements, okay? And I'm just like, how do you literally convert to a whole other religion without knowing about the dang religion? I'm gonna need you to do some research before you do something that drastic, okay? Next time. Every time they have a conversation, Mahmoud brings up the fact that, you know, she decided to convert. She decided that she was gonna follow all these rules. She even said she was gonna follow all these rules and make all these changes in her life, but then turns around and says, well, I didn't know. I didn't know all of these rules were gonna be a thing. And I'm just like, girl, you sound stupid. I just don't understand, Nicole. I really don't understand how you could do something so drastic and then turn around and be like, oh yeah, I didn't really know, you know? I didn't know how deep it ran. It's just so funny. It's funny and not funny all at the same time. They have this huge argument because they decide to go to this community pool or something like that. Mahmoud is just really stringent on her wearing this particular bathing suit that I can't remember the name of, okay? But it has a specific name and it's basically kind of like this wetsuit, basically, because it kind of covers from the top of your head all the way down to your feet. I'm not entirely sure if her feet were even out, okay, but I know it literally covered her whole body, okay? So you could only see her hands and her face and maybe her feet. And she was like, I do not like this. This is very constricting. I really am not enjoying this at all, okay? And Mahmoud is just looking at her like, oh my God, yay, you decide to wear it. But I forgot to mention, but this was after they had this conversation about her wearing the swimsuit in the first place. And all she did was ask Mahmoud a question. All she asked this man was, do you wear something under it? That's all she asked. Do you wear something under it? And this man gets snippy with her. He's just like, you know what? Just get dressed. Get dressed, put the swimsuit on. Like, I'm not having this conversation again, basically, right? And it was just like, what is happening? And even Nicole's just like confused because she's like, I'm just asking a question because I genuinely don't know. I think his mom was sitting right there at the time too. And it was so awkward because it was like, I mean, why are you angry? What are you going off on? She's just asking what to do. She doesn't know. So it was just really silly. I just feel like Mahmoud is going about this in a very childish way. Even his brother recognizes that, and I think that's why he tries his best to tell Mahmoud how to navigate the first parts of their marriage, you know, like the first couple of years, like how to do it. Because I think him and his wife, the brother, he's been married to his wife for a good amount of time. They have kids, you know, they all live in that house together. So, you know, he sees how Mahmoud and Nicole's marriage is working out and it's not too well. And he's trying to give him tips on how to deal with the problems and he's not listening. It's very interesting just how easily Mahmoud can fly off the handle. And Nicole, I think, is trying her best to like not be agitated, but it's kind of hard when you have to deal with someone like that all the time, you know? They make it to the pool, she's wearing this wetsuit and she's just like, I hate it, I don't want to wear this, like I want to go home. They have this big blow up on the street. I don't remember exactly how it got to that point, but Nicole is just like, I really just want to be alone. And Mahmoud is just like, no, because it's not safe. Like, I need you to come back with me. You could tell that he's just trying to get her back into the pool area so that they could go home. Catch an Uber, go home. But I don't think it's called Uber here. I think it's like a taxi. They just need to catch a ride to go back home. And Nicole's just pretty much fighting with him. And she decides to push him, okay? And this is in full view of everybody. He decides to grab her hand. And it's just like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that because you're gonna trigger me, basically, okay? And when it comes to, obviously, you putting your hands on people, I am not a fan of that. I think you should both keep your hands to yourself. That would avoid a lot of problems, okay? So looking at the footage, okay, because a lot of people were questioning whether it was Mahmoud's fault or Nicole, but you could clearly tell that Nicole was the first one to actually physically shove him, okay, push him away from her. And that's when he kind of responded with a, you know, hand on the wrist type of situation. So people were like going back and forth. They were like, it looks as though Mahmoud was just being really aggressive. But then at the same time, it's like Nicole pushed him though. Either way, Nicole ended up walking off and he sends her a message. He's just like, if you don't get in this car when I do and you're not coming home with me, then this marriage is over. I want a divorce. And Nicole is the first one to recognize, like, every time they have an issue, he always says that they should just get a divorce. And it's just kind of like, I don't understand how you could always want a divorce or see the divorce as a potential solution every time y'all run into a problem. He leaves Nicole. He leaves Nicole at this hotel pretty much by herself. If it wasn't for the production crew of this show being with her, she was gonna be by herself. Mahmoud's brother is just like, hey, where's Nicole when he comes home? And he's just like, oh, she's at the hotel. And And you know, the brother's just like, what do you mean you don't leave your wife at the hotel by herself? Like, are you nuts? Even in my mind, I was like, I don't care how angry you are, you wait until y'all cool down and then y'all leave together. Like, what? That was really wild on Mahmoud's part. I'm like, that's really interesting how you just leave your wife there. Even if she says she wants space, give her space, but keep an eye on her, okay? Like, she is in a foreign country. This is your country, not hers. Let her be angry, but let her be angry in your sight. With all that being said, you know, they come back. The brother brings Mahmoud back and he forces them to really have a conversation. They don't really come to any resolve, really, but they try to at least talk to each other. So that was a step in the right direction. But in that moment, the brother is just trying to have a heart-to-heart conversation with her and reminds her like, hey, you're my sister now. You're part of the family, so I need to make sure that you're okay as well. You know, and I really like that because it just seems like Mahmoud was just so childish yet again. Like, you could tell his age, really. You know, it shows. Like I said, they didn't really come to a resolve on the other issues, but again, even Nicole recognizes it. She's just like, you know, we just don't talk about our problems. That's how we deal with our problems. We just don't talk about them. So I honestly don't see them lasting much longer. I give them maybe a couple of months. I'm happy that Nicole was able to find a friend. However, Mahmoud didn't really care for the friend too much when they went to dinner and he got to know her. But I think Nicole had decided to go to a yoga retreat or something like that. And she met up with the yoga teacher and they became friends. And, you know, she was just trying to explain to the teacher like, hey, this is what's been going on with me, my life, my husband. The teacher was just trying to give her like the rundown on Egyptian men and how they typically can be. And it was very interesting how that ironically lined up a little too well or matched up too well with Mahmoud's profile. It's been a very interesting relationship thus far. Watching everything play out, Mahmoud just seems a little too young. In terms of how he deals with things, he just handled things it's never really well thought through. I think that's kind of why it's so cringy whenever they talk to each other. He's just like, yeah, baby, yeah, my love, yes, honey, okay, sweetie. And it's just like, y'all just trying to cover things up, like how y'all really feel about each other with these like, you know, sweethearts and my loves. It's like, stop, it's cringe. Y'all let me know your thoughts on these couples thus far down in the comments. It's been an interesting ride, okay? But I'll be catching you guys in the next one. Peace.